never envisioned something like that happening, because it is so rare to watch a movie where it was filmed. And I was there when the first festival happened in 1969. I was 12 years old. I was there in 1971 when the movie was made. I was 14 years old. And I'm not that I've been able to see in the film anywhere, but I remember seeing the cameramen climbing on the roof of the stage area. I remember the lights being strung up. And I am a writer and photographer. I mean, more a writer than a photographer, but freelance writer for several Bluegrass publications now. Bluegrass Unlimited magazine, Bluegrass Today online. I was very fortunate to be able to cover Camp Springs when Cody Johnson had his inaugural event and started it 3 years ago. And then I've been able to cover it since then. So I was sitting there at the watching of the movie, and my husband was making pictures of the movie as it was playing. And I'm sitting there taking notes, and it was so awesome seeing, I was here 50 years ago. And as I would watch the movie, we'd already headed home, but I would remind my husband, like, there's one scene where out in the parking lot there's two fiddlers, and it was Kenny Kosak and Al McCandless. And Al McCandless is a very good friend of ours. He is a retired pharmacist, and I still have a lot of contact with Al from time to time. And I'm sitting there saying, I was standing back there watching them do this, and to see the video or the movie and saying, I was there and I saw it when it happened. And then another one that really stood out for me was when Bluegrass 45 did their whole thing with the behind their back with the instruments. I was sitting right there and saw every part of that. And then a couple of years ago, I was here and I got to see Akira, the mandolin player, and we talked about that, and we talked about Carlton, and we talked about those scenes. Another one that meant a lot to me was the country gentlemen. They're in pink shirts and they're out there practicing. I think it might have been Matterhorn, but they're out there practicing in the parking lot. And they've got a crowd around them. They're in their pink shirts and their white pants. And two neat things about that is there's a camper behind them, and you see a gentleman walk up behind them and take his hat off and tip his hat looking into the camper. Well, that gentleman is Harold Crisco, and Harold died a couple of years ago, but I'm a banjo player. He was literally my banjo doctor, and he would work on my banjo. He lived just a few miles from where I grew up, and we kind of washed each other's hands growing up. He was an instrument repairman, and I taught banjo lessons. So if I had a student that would come in with something wrong with their instrument, I would say, you need to go see Harold Crisco. And then if Harold had someone come in and say, I would love to learn the banjo, he'd say, you need to go see Sandy Crisco. My maiden name was Crisco, and we actually spelled it different. Probably if you went far enough down the line, you would figure out we were some kin. But another neat thing about that scene is while they're filming, if you look real closely on the right-hand side, you see a real white-haired little young fella. And he's probably 8 years old in that video, standing there watching them. Well, that person that was there watching them, his name, again, was from my area. His name was Rick Allred, and he's a mandolin player. Well, he was watching the country gentleman play. Years later, he became the country gentleman's mandolin player. And so that's so neat that you see him in the background watching them as a fan at 8 years old. And then later on, he was actually traveling the road with them. And then, of course, Missy Raines, you see her walking with an umbrella across the grounds, and she played this year. And then there was Bobby Osborne. And so I have to really give hats off to Cody Johnson and Donna, who took on such a tremendous task to purchase this land, clean up this land that looked like a forest. You couldn't find any of the facilities, and get it back to its heyday, and then show the film and have these people that were there 50 years ago back for it.
That's Missy Raines and Allegheny playing on one of the streets in downtown Raleigh during the World of Bluegrass 2021. And just a brief reminder, there's a new gift box available now on bluegrasscountrysoul.com.